Beyond.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 405. I'm your host for the day, Marty Sleva. Max Scoville and Andrew Goldfarb are dead on the streets of Cologne, Germany.
That's right. They're there for Gamescom.
Oh, they're not dead.
No, they're alive. Sony's presence is dead on the streets of Gamescom.
That is fine, because instead we have two incredible guests in Brian Altano. Joining me to my left is making her Beyond return, Megan Sullivan.
What's up, everybody?
Megan, this is a good episode for you to be on. We're going to be talking about a lot of Final Fantasy. Brian Altano. And, of course, Jared Petty.
I still lack a catchphrase.
You don't need it.
If you say that one enough, that will be it.
That will become my catchphrase?
Yeah, that's how it works.
I was thinking, Yo Boogie.
Yo Boogie.
Yo Boogie.
Yo Boogie.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. If you notice the bounce rate from this episode, everyone stop listening.
Right
Yo
there.
Boogie.
Yo Boogie.
Yo Boogie really offended them.
That's my favorite canceled Rare game.
Yo Boogie.
We have
what about your... sorry, go ahead.
Damn it, Jared.
We got to get through the intro.
We got to get through the intro.
Then it's open waters.
And then you can talk about Jetpack and Snake Rattle and Roll.
No, I'm not going to do it.
We have a lot of things to talk about this episode, pre-Gamescom. It is Final Fantasy XII possibly getting a remake, remaster, or maybe it's just lies. All right, we're going to cut your mic because that's not the noise you make to Final Fantasy XII.
All right.
It's a real good game. We're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII, some changes that might be in the remake.
Why don't we just talk about all the Final Fantasies?
We're going to talk about Final Fantasy I.
We could. That's a great game.
That was a real good game. We're also going to talk about the fact that the Konami drama just keeps getting so much better. So much better.
By better, you mean terrible and sad.
Oh yeah, it's a debacle.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to touch on how rad the PlayStation Plus lineup is for August and some of the cool games coming out this month.
Hooray!
We did it. Starting off, Final Fantasy XII. Earlier this week, it was reported that at a Distant Worlds concert, the conductor, Arnie Roth, sort of said that they are working on, I believe the exact phrasing was a remake of the PS2 classic.
When did he just yell this during the concert?
That's what conductors do,
There's
right?
this amazing crescendo of sound, and he's just like, and we're remaking Final Fantasy II.
And I love that Square PR people are just like freaking out, like that's not what was supposed to happen.
Did they rush the stage and just drag him out?
Carry him off.
So just like you just notice a bullet going, it's like, oh god, what happened? But then everyone's freaking out, like this is weird because this is sort of the black sheep of recent Final Fantasy games. It's divisive.
It's very divisive.
It's very divisive.
People love it or they hate it. There is no in between.
And by divisive, you mean beloved by the right-minded.
That's why Jared's on.
Right.
So many wrong. I don't even know where to start.
So we're gonna get into the game in a second, but Square updated the story. They issued, the conductor issued a statement on the Facebook page that said, in response to comments posted by fans, I want to rectify a statement made on stage Saturday night during the Distant Worlds concert. Music from Final Fantasy. Where is it? Following conversations with composer Sakamoto regarding new concert arrangements of the music of Final Fantasy XII, regrettably, the term remake was used in error during one of the announcements that took place on stage at the concert. We sincerely regret any confusion.
So it did take place on stage.
It was on stage.
That is a bizarre place to
They just
announce
apologized for saying remake. They didn't apologize for anything about remastered.
Which back in 2013, Yoshinori Kitase hinted at. He said that if Final Fantasy X HD remastered sold enough copies, they would love to make Final Fantasy XII remastered. And then we didn't hear anything again until this impossible leak happened.
And that's a fascinating turn of phrase there, because I think this is a game that really would benefit from a remake more than a remaster. A remaster would be fine to pretty it up, but Final Fantasy XII is a game full of good ideas, some of which are poorly executed on. I feel like another gloss of polish, sort of like some of the same folks that worked on this worked on the original Tactics Ogre and then went on to make the remastered Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together. Final Fantasy, right? They could another pass turned Tactics Ogre from a pretty neat game with some neat ideas and some problems into a masterpiece. I feel like there's a kernel of a tremendous RPG in Final Fantasy XII.
Well, you know the backstory, right?
Yeah.
The whole backstory with Matsuno had a nervous meltdown and basically got into a fight with management because they wanted to add characters who weren't supposed to be in the game, like Vaughn and Pinello. And it was this whole drama where the game had been going on. The development was like years in. It cost millions, like $35 million. And Matsuno had gotten into a fight with upper management because they said, hey, you don't have enough pretty anime boys in this game.
There's one thing Final Fantasy needs, pretty anime boys.
It's more spiky hair and zippers and pretty boys running around. And so Matsuno, who's known to do Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics, and he's very thematically and mechanically sophisticated games, was like, not really. I kind of want to make a more mature main character. It was either supposed to be Balthier or Bosch. There's some disagreement. Yeah, it was supposed to be the actual hero, and they're like, no, you've got to throw in Vaughn and his pretty girlfriend, Penelo.
Yep.
And so when you start off in the game, you're like, I don't understand this main character and why they're so lame.
Neither do they.
And neither did they. They were shoehorned in, and about a third to halfway through development, Matsuno was like, I'm out.
He just
walked away.
I can't do this. Basically walked away. Ostensibly, it was for... I can't say words.
Yeah.
It was basically, oh, I'm sick. I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
But really, it was probably...
It was like, I can't deal with this anymore.
Creative differences.
Big creative differences. And so there is a kernel of brilliance in the story and the mechanics, but it falls apart because basically the person who wrote and directed and designed all the tactical...
The story falls apart. I feel like the mechanics are pretty sound.
The mechanics are good throughout. If you like that sort of thing, if you like the Gambit system, and you don't mind walking away from a game... Like literally putting down the controller and be like, well, my characters know what to do. I'm off, which people reportedly did. When
I actually do love that. I love the fact that it reminds me a little bit of it's the few things I like about MMOs in like World of Warcraft, but just streamlined into a single player experience.
Yep.
I like setting up. It's almost like a strategy game where I put in the work beforehand, and then when I watch a battle unfold, I'm like seeing the efforts.
That's what I liked about it too, actually, and that it reminded me in some ways almost of old turn-based RPGs, which is the same way. You're doing all your work ahead of time, and then once you get to a turn-based system, not even an active time battle thing, but it's just kind of like, well, it's going to play out, and as long as you make a couple of smart decisions, it's going to play out well based on the work you've already put into it. That's what I liked about it. I really enjoyed that. I also liked the, hey, I see a guy over there, and I don't have to go fool with him, that Chrono Trigger Earthbound thing, where it's like, well, there's a dude over there. I don't want to fool with him right now. I'm going to go this way.
Yeah, this would be, again, I mean, if this thing is real, I would love to replay this game on Vita. I think this would be a perfect candidate for a game that, I mean, you are right. A lot of the game, you sort of turn your brain off a little bit. And I wouldn't mind having this be a thing that I have on a handheld while I'm also watching a TV show. I
could get behind the argument it would make a good Vita game because you could just set your gambits and then you could be like, all right, cool, I'll go do something else and then I'll come back and this boss is beaten. But because it wasn't really an MMO, it tried to be both things. It tried to be an offline MMO, and for me that didn't work. Either commit and be an MMO and be a strategy game in line with Final Fantasy Tactics, or go with the more traditional main series. But it wanted to do everything, and it's like it couldn't figure out what it wanted to do, for me at least.
Yeah, and it also didn't help that the story is a complete grease fire because of what happened.
It's
You're just like,
fire grease.
It is, and yet somehow still makes more sense than Final Fantasy VII's narrative.
Plus, some of the mechanics, like, you want to get this like really powerful spear, but if you open the wrong chest in the wrong area, you don't get it. Like there were conditions that made no sense. Or basically it was designed to, you have to buy a game guide in order to get through this game.
That's stupid.
Dude, Square did a lot of that.
That's what keeps me employed. Hey,
you don't have
bread and butter.
You don't have to buy our guides. You just click and watch a dumb ad that pops up every once in a while, unless you're an IGN Prime member.
And then you don't have to watch the ad. That's right.
No, there was a real dark days for strategy guides back then. I remember I think it was the Final Fantasy IX strategy guide that was pretty much broken in half, and you'd get to the end of something in the actual strategy guide that you bought. It's like, go on the website and read the rest of it. And I'm like, this was like, I think I was like dial-up internet and everything, and I didn't have a computer in my room, and I'm like, what is happening? I bought this for $15. Like, tell me how to kill this monkey man. I don't know if there was a monkey man in the game.
I'm sure there was.
If there was, he deserved to die.
Monkey Man's attack.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the main villain's name. Wasn't he kind of a monkey man? Or maybe I'm thinking of a...
What was that? Someone with an R? Someone with a K?
No,
I don't know. Monkey Man's...
Ricky the gorilla.
What about...
Ricky the chimp.
Ricky the chimp, of course.
Yeah.
As opposed to Fishman's.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Fishman's.
Yeah, Fishman's?
Yeah.
Are they Fishmen or Fishman's?
It's why can't it be both?
Well, I was playing Etrian Odyssey 2 the other day, and it's suddenly like,
Kuja.
It says Fishman's attack. And I was like, that's amusing. I don't know.
Kuja was actually a pretty kick-butt villain. He was...
Monkey Man?
I don't think he was Monkey Man. Wasn't the main character
the main character
was
a Monkey
tail?
Man. He had a real tail.
Oh, okay.
Final Town is very confused right now.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of lost in the jungle on this one.
Monkey
there
Man
we
talk.
go.
Have you played any of the Final Fantasy games, Brian? Or
yes, but I haven't played 12. 12 is way beyond when I gave up on those.
Look at that.
I have a confession to make. I got way into Crystal Chronicles.
You
Is that weird?
Do you like buckets?
awesome.
No, I had a bunch of friends who just had we had all just happened to be living near each other at the same time, and we would get together with like a big handle of rum and just stay up making rum and cokes and playing Crystal Chronicles till like 2 or 3 o'clock.
That sounds like a great evening.
Was that the one? Did it use the GBA?
It used GBAs. It was a GameCube game.
Yeah.
And it was not a good game, but it was just a fun multiplayer game.
You had to have like those octopus arm wires coming out of that. That was that, and that really cool Pac-Man game used that
game
too.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Four
What's
Swords.
that? Four Swords used that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually hoping we'd see more stuff like that when they announced the connectivity with the Vita, but apparently a lot of people don't want to sit around a television holding little handheld devices.
Also, they would have had to have
one of them has to carry a bucket the entire time.
and they'd have had to have sold more than 7 Vita too.
That's true.
That would have helped.
They've had half of the Vita audiences right in this room right now.
Yeah.
Moving on to another Final Fantasy game and more Final Fantasy news. The Final Fantasy VII remake. We keep getting these little details about what's actually going to change and sort of what's going to stay the same. But one of the big things that came out over the weekend was that there are going to be drastic changes to the combat system, and didn't go into more detail than that. But I sort of just wanted to open that up to what do you think that means? Do you think that means keeping traditional ATB, or is this going into more action?
I think, Marty, that means that we're living in a materia world, and I am a materia girl. That's what I think it means. That's my answer there. So
yeah. I'm not going back to the mic until you rectify this.
I don't think I can.
Yeah.
That's okay.
If there are two polar opposite points in the universe, it is you and Madonna.
That's true. Yeah. No, I think that that the traditional ATB system is probably going to be replaced, if nothing else, because of they're shaping this game in its previews as some kind of like beautiful CG remaster. Mm-hmm. It's going to be this lovely thing, and I think maybe the fact that Final Fantasy VII used like 3 different perspectives in the game. You had like the funny little cartoon fat people, and then you had the better done CG, and then you had the little sprite people, and they were always jumping back and forth between them. I think they're going to go for a much more unified look this time, and that may not be conducive to the kind of like zoom in random encounter ATB system that you saw before.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible you might have map-based combat again, where you're just seeing people and the combat takes place right there in the same scene that you're walking around in, as opposed to get any kind of zoom in, zoom out situation. I think that you might see something more like what Tri-Ace did with Final Fantasy XIII-3 in Lightning Returns, where you've got this kind of rhythmic switch around battle system going on. Something that's a little that game was effectively Mike Tyson's Punch Out with RPG stats and a dumb story.
Real dumb story.
Yeah, and a real dumb story. Maybe something more like that, where you're constantly filtering in and out. I'm suspecting something a little more along this line that we're getting in some JRPGs on consoles, of things being a bit more actiony.
Yeah, and I kind of had a hunch that would happen, because to me it felt like when they debuted the notion that this game would be a thing at E3, I think everyone in the room was like, "This is for me," and I was sitting there going like, "No, it's not. This is for people who play video games in 2015, and that doesn't mean it's not for you. But if you grew up on Final Fantasy VII, this might not be what you want, because I think this might skew more towards somebody who plays video games now and somebody who plays RPGs now, because a lot of the stuff in Final Fantasy VII is pretty old school."
No, and I'm completely okay with that. I mean, the materia system, if you like games where your characters are blank templates, you're really going to like 7's materia system. But if you want your characters to feel distinctive, they're going to have to change something. Because otherwise they're pretty much just slots for sticking the abilities you want them to have, and the characters outside of their annoying personalities don't actually have a lot that distinguishes them.
Well, how do you feel about having the option to switch between the two, or is that basically designing 2 completely separate games?
I think that it's a lot of work. I would love the option. I think it would be great to have the option.
That would be wild if it gave you the option of traditional turn-based battles or of more active action.
I mean,
battles.
I feel like I've played remakes. Nothing's jumping in my mind right now, but I've played remakes of games or remasters of games that had old playstyles and new playstyles that kind of gave you the option.
Chrono Trigger did, but it was subtle on the DS.
Yes.
But
that's what I was thinking.
It was a subtle change, though.
Because I just played that recently on the DS.
Yeah, and that did allow you to do that, but this would be a lot more work. I'm guessing if they're going for a full like action-based combat system, it's going to be a lot different. And again, we're speculating here, but ATB is I like it. It's a fine way to play a game, but it's not the be-all, end-all of RPG controls.
Yeah, and when you like you mentioned some of the games, but when you look the Final Fantasy series over the past 6-7 years, looking at Crisis Core and Type 0 and Lightning Returns, and then what we've seen of 15 and Dusksky, it's definitely moving to a sort of real-time action-orientated approach, which, again, I don't think is a bad thing, because I think everyone who played the 15 demo really liked it.
Yeah, but I'm curious to know in 7 how they're going to implement certain things, like, overdrives and whatnot, like how those are going to, I don't know if it's going to be more like the paradigm system of Final Fantasy XIII, or I don't know if they are willing to risk going full-on action.
Yeah.
Sort of like Final Fantasy XV, and then lose sort of what made Final Fantasy VII's core mechanics, like losing some of that element. I'm a little nervous about that, but I think what Brian said is very true, which is this is made for a younger generation who may not have the patience to do the whole turn-based.
Totally.
As long as I don't have to watch Knights in the Round animate, I'm fine. Other than that, I'm good.
Don't you have 30 minutes of your life to waste?
No, I don't.
What if you could pay for DLC to have it go by quicker?
Then I would like to burn my PlayStation.
Yeah.
I would like to see the animation at least once, though, because the summon animation in 15 was amazing. That was so good. Like, that brought a tear to my eye, because it's like Ramuh was one of my favorite Final Fantasy IV summons, and to see that again was amazing.
But that's also a worrisome thing, because I'm like, it's awesome to see it that one time when you're fighting the what's the little monster's name?
Oh, which one? The behemoth?
Yeah, the behemoth.
Yeah.
It was awesome to see that first time, but I'm like, man, if I had to watch this whole thing every time I do this.
But they always had an option to shorten the animation too.
Not
like,
7 though, right?
In 7, no. In 7,
7 was notorious.
I think. Or wait, or is it 9? I'm getting mixed up. In 7, I think you had to watch it.
Yeah,
I could be forgetting.
I think you're right. I think later ones they realized that people did not want to sit through 10-minute summons over and over and over and over.
They were pretty. And you had the load times, of course, with PlayStation. Even if you skip things, you still had to wait for the animation to load before you skipped it.
If you're like me, you had a drive that kept skipping.
Oh, that's
all
fun.
the cutscenes, which was not fun.
I'll tell you what, you were talking about the 15 animations and how beautiful they were. I want a new ActRaiser with that kind of scale. Like,
so
that would
Mitch.
be amazing.
You have no idea how much that would please me.
Yeah?
I love ActRaiser.
Yeah, well, that's because ActRaiser is sublime.
Yeah.
It's like, we're just going to take SimCity and Rastan and make a video game out of them. And for some reason, you put those things together, and it's great.
Yeah. No, it's a great idea.
You should have recommended ActRaiser to Rygar Guy. Mm-hmm. I think Rygar Guy really would have liked.
He would have loved that. Do people here know Rygar Guy?
No.
Have you told Rygar Guy this?
That was a comedy button thing, wasn't it? Rygar Guy? Yeah.
I told the story about this guy I met at a wedding who recognized me and wouldn't stop. What's a nice way to say pestering? He just basically came up to me the entire night, asked me questions about old video games, if I remembered them or not. But he had this very thick southern New Jersey accent, which was like, "Hey, Brian, before you go, let me ask you one more question. Have you ever heard of Rygar for the Nintendo Entertainment System?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm trying to get a drink right now. Can we talk about this another time?" So, yeah.
Titular hero
There's
Rygar.
some stuff with that. That's all good news.
Yeah.
Brian, let's move on to something horrific.
Yeah, this is a story. I'll let you lead this up, because this is...
God, all right. So, recently we've seen a lot of bad news in the press about Konami, because it's been sort of disastrous over there, watching their once kind of strong-armed game division lean towards pachinko machines and mobile games, and their AAA games kind of withering away. We saw Silent Hills get canceled. We saw PT get pulled off the PlayStation Store. It's a huge problem. We saw that entire relationship dissolve.
Yeah, Kojima's name being wiped
name's
from
getting
the
pulled
records.
off of the front of the game. And then we started reading stuff about how Kojima was impossible to work with. He was expensive. He was a diva. And it got me thinking, like, who's awful here? Is it Konami? Is it Kojima? Konami has now had the ball spiked right back into their court, and they've done stuff that's more awful than pretty much, I think, any game developer that I've heard of outside of maybe horror stories you heard from Zynga, or what was the company that was working on Rise, that Xbox One exclusive,
Crytek,
where they were bragging about how many how many dinners they had to expense,
how many children's births everyone missed.
Yeah,
That's so weird. I'm playing Rise right now, and it's just weird that
And all you're thinking
You're playing Rise right now?
because I finally got my Xbox One to work again.
Oh, okay, cool. That's very. I was like, man, that's an odd one to revisit.
Yeah, no, I wasn't revisiting it.
Just go grab Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah.
So there was an article in a Japanese financial newspaper that basically explained, and I guess they talked to people off the record who were working there. They were talking about how much of a nightmare it is to work on Metal Gear Solid 5, and B, how much of a nightmare it is to work at this company. Now, in business ethics in Japan, there is sort of like this known quantity that you stick around for the bad stuff, and there's a nobility to doing that, and you don't really get fired. You just get kicked down the rung of the ladder of the company, which means that CEOs can get put in a room with nothing to do but a blank stack of papers.
They call it a window-facing job.
Right,
yeah.
right. Until they go crazy or commit suicide or get horribly depressed. And in this case, we had some stuff that's kind of like that, because we had people who were kicked down the rung in Konami for not performing properly or not doing whatever was ascertained to be their jobs, and were given jobs as people who are now suddenly cleaning up the sports club, which is, I guess, their version of a gym that was probably never used, and also just straight up being janitors, just cleaning up some turds on the ground that people were living in there.
It's insane. It says... any members of the staff, quote, deemed useless, end quote, are apparently resigned to other jobs, including assembly line work at Konami's patchy slot machine factory, working as security guards, and even cleaning up at the company's fitness club.
Yeah, we've got this quote, too, which is horrifying. Like, if you're listening to this, you're at work, and you're like, man, my boss is a dick, or he's always checking my time cards, or I have to work overtime and blah, 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 and I don't get paid. Totally agree. Props to you for struggling through that. This will make you feel better. The culture at Konami is also explored, with cameras apparently placed in the corridors to monitor employee movements, while time cards are used to monitor how long everyone is taking for lunch, with those deemed to be taking too long being named and shamed throughout the company.
That's what's really good. Most Konami employees aren't given their own email addresses, while sales and PR staff who have to communicate with outsiders do have permanent addresses. Many others have one that is routinely randomized every few months.
So this baffled me, because how does that help anything?
Yeah.
I don't understand what that is aiming to accomplish.
It's cutting off all external communication.
I've
heard this
you're right.
like from people who have worked, in these places. Like, these are not fabrications. This is not like, I don't know, these aren't like senseless stories. Like, this is kind of how it was.
And you guys talked about the Japanese business ethic culture. I mean, traditionally, and again, a lot of things have changed a lot in Japan in the last 20, 30 years. But the idea was, yes, you're supposed to show your employer loyalty through the good times, the bad times. But likewise, that's supposed to be a symbiotic relationship. Your employer is supposed to show you loyalty as well. And that when you suffer for the company, whether you be the one to take the fall or the one to give all the hours and the time, or the one that lowers maybe your expectations so that you can stay at pace with the team, likewise, there's an expectation that you're supposed to be lifted up in those moments, that you're supposed to be protected, taken care of, that your job is going to be there, that what you did is going to remain relevant. And I worry very much that this is a sign of something. I mean, this sounds a lot like the rumors we heard coming out of Sega a few months ago, and that's kind of a horrific thought. If corporate culture is degenerated to this point within an old Japanese company, that's a frightening sign.
So a lot of I mean, it's sort of hard to understand this from our perspective, not just as Americans, but as people who just consume video games. Right? Like, we want to go to a store, buy a game, and expect it to be good. That's the very little that we ask, and we'll give you $60 in return, and we'll have a good time. What a lot of people don't realize is that every major company basically bets. And in Konami's case, they made two major bets. One of them was Silent Hills, which dissolved because it was basically like Guillermo del Toro was trying to hang out with Kojima, and Kojima was like, I can't. My stepmom's being insane to get to that. I have to go clean the turd.
I want to hear that Kodak call.
Yeah.
Just
Right, totally.
Back and forth.
And two is Metal Gear Solid 5, which for a number of reasons, as we talked about before, is I think partly Kojima, and I think partly, obviously, Konami, is way over budget, is still not out. I would say that's 100% why we saw them sell a chunk of it last year for full price. And I think when a company like this, of this size, takes bets like this, and one of them dissolves completely and one of them gets pushed down the line and gets more and more inflated, that puts everything at huge risk, because they basically, like, movie studios do this in America. Well, they'll say, hey, we're putting everything on, Pixels and what Hot Tub Time Machine 4 or whatever. Yeah. And then both those movies tank, and they're like, we have to do a ton of layoffs, and then they don't have anything lined up in the next 6 months. And the studio closes. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like, that logo you saw before something you liked for a very long time is gone.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just gone forever.
cell phone games and pachinko are surefire moneymakers in Japan at this point, or at least they're perceived as such by the people who invest money to enable businesses to start new projects. So right now there are two big console hits. One's massively over budget, the other one's vanished, and they're looking at the people who would be willing to reinvest in their company. And they're pointing at the two things, and they're like, "Yeah, that's easy money. Of course, we're going to make money on that. How could we lose?" That's really bad news for us. I think Konami could recover. I'm worried that they're going to go the way of SNK or or Sega after Sammy bought them, or
I mean, so what does that like? Where does that leave the properties though? Like, where do you think? So I guess what are like? Obviously, we're talking about Metal Gear and Silent Hill, but I mean, the other notable Konami things are Castlevania and Suikoden. Like, I don't know. Are there others?
Those are the ones that come to the Gradius, be another one, and there's a few others. I think that leaves those properties cell phone games in Japan, and to a lesser extent here, and maybe they will license to other developers. That's my hope. Is that we'll see those licensed out. Go ahead.
I was going to say I see them kind of going. I see them kind of where Capcom is right now, where they're not out of business, but they're not necessarily pumping out these giant sort of. I mean, there was a time where you would get a game like Dark Void like every 6 months. Sort of like
Lost Planet.
Dead
Rising.
These pretty big budget games. That didn't turn around and do a ton of profit. I think Lost Planet did pretty well for them actually. But now they're focused on stuff like Mega Man Legacy Collection, which is awesome. It's them sort of championing their old IPs again and doing so in a way that probably isn't super expensive. They remade the original Resident Evil. They remade Resident Evil 0.
They're making Street Fighter V, and with Capcom there is one big difference, and that's that at this point at least they have Monster Hunter to hang their hat on. Which in Japan it's difficult to overstate how big a deal that is.
So they're not at the point yet where they're sort of having that I don't know if you guys remember Midway when they had that fire sale of their IPs and things just went out the door, and that's why you saw stuff like Paperboy was on sale for like $125 or something like that. No one bought it because why?
I wish I'd have bought it for $125.
I trust you with that IP more than I trust pretty much anybody else. If you could combine
that IP with Mortal Kombat.
Paperboy and Mortal Kombat?
Mortal Paperboy Kombat.
But I think
so hold on, is that a newspaper guy that delivers newspapers that are about Mortal Kombat, or is it about a guy that goes door to door to people's houses killing?
I'll tell you what it is. It's Ian Holm in Alien rolling up that magazine and shoving it down somebody's throat trying to choke them to death. That's what that looks like, except it's a newspaper instead of a magazine.
All right, your version is real weird.
I don't know why that Bilbo Baggins would do that.
He's real that's a movie where Robot Bilbo tries to kill somebody with a rolled up magazine.
So I'm going to be honest with you guys. As a consumer, I am completely torn on what to do with a story like this. Because you want to support the company making this game because it looks great. And you want to support the creator making this game because he's made awesome games for years. But I don't think I want to support a company that treats its employees like shit. You can write down whenever that curse was.
I haven't That's fine.
I know, and I'm torn. I don't want to give these guys $60 to save the rec center from burning down or whatever. But I feel like the guys are the rec center thing is like an old joke about 80s movies where some evil guy takes over. Like the evil guy's already in the rec center. I think giving him more money is he's just gonna glue more breakdancers to the roof.
If all these reports are true, if this is valid, then I guess you're sitting there thinking, okay, look, do I not give them money so that they'll continue to diminish out of the space and gradually just make these people go home, dissolve and fire everybody? Or do I give them money in the hope that with more financial solvency they rebuild their corporate culture and become something worth sending money to?
I mostly just want to bring a bunch of goats back to my home base in Metal Gear, so that's why I'm giving them money.
Exactly.
Is that how it works?
I'm a big fan of putting parachutes on goats.
Is the line for you if they made Snake a 15-year-old pretty boy? Is that the cutoff point? Do you think that's what they're really fighting about?
If he's doing something interesting.
I would be totally okay with that. As somebody that has very little invested in the actual narrative of Metal Gear and just wants to tie a bunch of things to balloons.
Yeah.
I don't.
You'd be totally fine.
I don't care what he looks
issue.
like.
And to be fair, they sorta with the back half of Sons of Liberty made Snake 15.
They sort of did. That's a good point.
We got a nice naked blonde boy who covered up his junk while doing cartwheels.
Is this something that's common with Japanese game developers, but there's just so few now that we don't read the story? There was a story that came out a couple months ago too about people at Nintendo talking about how there were nothing. I don't think anything this bad. There was nobody like cleaning Miyamoto's car or anything like that. But they're talking about just terrible conditions, or
Okay, now I don't want to speak out of turn here because it's not like an expert on Japanese video game culture.
Lived in Japan,
but I lived in Japan. I taught English in a Sony factory for a while. I've been around people that work in Japanese business.
English in a Sony factory?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I taught English in a Sony factory. I taught Sony factory workers how to speak English. That was part of my job. Like I would go to the Sony factory in Minakamo once every week, and we had a little class, and people would come out of the laboratory where there were people there that had worked on the PlayStation 2 prototype. It was really cool. Like,
wow.
Yeah, they had worked on the original prototype, helped build it. And these engineers, they were working on cameras now, actually, and they would come in and teach English there in the factory, and then go home.
Did you get a free PlayStation Eye?
I did not. I did not get any cool free Sony products.
You didn't get any free Sony products?
I can't think of any.
Did they ever give you water or coffee?
They in fact did give me both water and coffee and tea. That was the main gift. But
no free Walkman.
No free Walkman. No free no Alpha camera, which is what they manufactured in that factory at that point. Anyway, I knew a lot of people that worked in Japanese businesses, and speaking in broad terms, and I do know some people that work in development houses now. Some Japanese development houses I hear great stories out of. They're really that people do work long hours. But that's video game development. It's like that way. I mean, think about the stories we've heard about people with cots in their offices, and and the video game support groups. Where I remember going to GDC last year and going to a conference where people were talking about this. These were developers coming up to the mic at the I don't remember. Anyway, they were talking about suicides in their business and how that affected the workplace, stress levels, sleeping at work. So in Japan, I was going to
say, if you watch like Indie Game the movie, you can see there's obviously people who are, and I get it. Like I've put my head so far into my work that I'm dedicated, I'm losing sleep and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think there's a difference between that level of dedication of like we are going all in on something we care about, and working for a AAA giant video game publisher that frankly should have its shit together.
Yeah.
That's why we got shocked at the Rise thing, the Crytek thing, because they were bragging about how many dinners they had to buy for people. Like, and people were saying, like if you had a good project manager has a project spec'd out so that you're not buying people overtime dinners every other night, and they get to go home and see their wives. Yeah.
Right. I think that what we're going to find here is in some situations the overlords are oppressive, and in some they're not. And also don't forget, this is a shame culture where they talk about
Japan or gaming.
Japan especially. Where shaming, taking the blame, things like that are an important part of that symbiotic relationship sometimes, and that people are bullied and made examples of in adult life as well as in children's life. It's a very common thing there. It doesn't make any sense to us from our culture necessarily, but it's something that happens. I'm not excusing it, condoning it, or it's just something that takes place. Some of these stories I have no trouble believing at all based on things people have told me about their work. But I've also seen businesses where people continue to work at the same company for decades and find joy and reward in what they do.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
These both coexist side by side.
Well, people also get into bad relationships or marriages because they're easy or simple. It doesn't mean, and then they just get lazy because walking away from something is sometimes harder than just sitting there and taking the punishment,
Yeah, but I doubt Konami is the only Japanese developer or publisher where Punisher. Listen to this, put this slip. Developer or publisher where things like this take place.
Yeah, I think it's just one of the ones we're probably hearing about again because they have a lot of games that the Western audience is still excited about.
Yeah.
So. The fact is, this maybe is a broader discussion. The industry really does need to grow up and change how their project management practices and employee relations work.
You heard it here first. Unionize.
I've actually I've been saying that for years. Like I'm friends with what's his name, older Pete from Mike Morona from Pete and Pete, and he's been doing grip work on film sets and TV shows for like the last 15 years. Ever since he got off of the Nickelodeon show, he's like, I like being on sets. And he worked on Boardwalk Empire, and he worked on Dexter, and blah, blah, blah. And every time a season ends, his entire team moves to something else. In the video game industry, somebody works on a game, it ships, and they fire that entire team. They lay them off. And those people scatter into different places. That's why you always see, like, from the ex-makers of Metroid Prime and Banjo-Kazooie
and Halo.
And Halo comes something that all these people will never get to see each other again for when this is done, the day it ships. That's why you read a company will ship a game and they dissolve the team working on it. And it's become so common. It's such commonplace practice that in the video game industry, nobody's ever said, like, well, why don't we have a union of people that can move from thing to thing? Like, why don't we have a whole bunch of people that do awesome camera work that can move from thing to thing?
But aren't we told constantly in this industry, you're lucky to have this job, 1 million people want your job? You're told that over and over and over and over again. You're lucky to have this job. You're lucky to get paid for something that people would love to do.
Yeah, there's if that's terrible managers, they will sort of pass down the "don't rock the boat" because you should be thankful you're here kind of thing, which is, in my opinion, just ludicrous.
I think it's unhealthy.
Anyone who's in the industry is obviously good enough to be doing what they do, and you should cherish hard workers and cherish talent
and artists.
Yeah,
and artists. Like, we can't sit around all day and say, like, are video games art or video games are artistic? Let's put video games in museums and then fire the artists every 6 months and hire a new artist.
And in Hollywood, I mean, these guilds formed at a time when our country was frankly much friendlier to unions. It is much harder to form a union now than it was when Hollywood was taking off and these groups formed. And even then you had the studio system to deal with, and it was well into the life cycle of movie making that the studio system's back was finally broken and people were able to get out of ludicrous contracts. It would require a colossal effort in a very top ownership friendly legal culture to make this happen. It's not impossible, but it would be a fight.
It'd be really hard. Well, I think the biggest fear is that the union will picket or protest or hang back on the lines, in which case a game would get delayed for 6 months, which happens anyway
That's
to
really
every
funny.
game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. What do we know, right? We're just a bunch of people talking about a video game plastic box.
Still, you know what? At least,
but
we're
I just think
about.
it sort of feels like a goal towards.
It's a good start. It is a good start. Things ought to change. There's a lot that ought to change in this industry, and we know that. We know the working conditions are rough for people, and certainly about this.
If you have thoughts on this, send us your letters to beyond at IGN. Is that it? It's I was gonna say it's a long week. It's
beyond
Monday.
at IGN.com.
Beyond at IGN.com. Send us your letters. What do you think about the Konami situation? What do you think about people working on video games in general? How should they be treated? I think a lot of people are just like, oh, well, they have a dream job, but it's still a job. They're still working. They're still calling their wives and being like, I can't come home tonight because I screwed up making a sheep fly away in a balloon.
Yeah.
No, it's true. When I went to Ukes twice, they had like shampoo and soap under the desks because they would take showers, stay overnight for days on end.
Where was this?
The Ukes.
The wrestling
Japan?
games?
They made the wrestler, or they still make.
Yeah.
And this isn't a new thing. Mega Man 2 was a night project. I mean, they were like, it was a work of passion, but the guys, we're talking about like, the late 1987 or the late 1980s.
What were they doing in the day?
They're working on other games. And then they were like, oh, well, we really want to make this game, so we'll just not sleep, stay here at Capcom, and make Mega Man 2.
God, they should have made every Mega Man game at night.
That's
awesome.
That's one of the
reasons. You Mega Man 4, 5, and 6 were day projects.
Yeah, 3 was too, but 2 was a labor of love.
Mega Man 64 was definitely a day project.
Yeah, it was an after hours thing.
Yeah. All right.
The key to good games is like sleep deprivation and delirium.
Well, if that's the case, all games would be good now. Yeah. But I like your theory.
Well, wasn't that Blood Dragon was some crazy story like that?
Yeah. It was like his
See, I mean, some of the best.
I didn't know
some of the best decisions in art, in music, in video games, especially, have come from technical limitations.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's an okay challenge to overcome, but I don't think that should come from your bosses. I think that should come from the ecosystem, the platform in which you're working on, and not the asshole at the top telling you to sleep under your desk or clean the turds. So Konami's full of turds. That's a problem. No, I'm sure things are fine over there.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely not. But anyways, PlayStation Plus. Is there a segue even? On to happier news. The PlayStation Plus lineup for August has been revealed, and it's some real good games. Jared.
Yeah, we got
real good games.
Well, these real good games include Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris.
That game's a real good game.
That's a real good game.
It's 4 players. You can play on one television.
On that one TV.
It's a sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy, or what was it called?
I don't believe it's
Guardians
I
of
don't
Light.
believe it's not. Although if it were, that would be amazing.
different
That'd be
Wrong
wow.
Guardians.
You got that wooden guy running around.
Yeah.
He's all.
If you
just
thought the last Tomb Raider game was a kind of little too serious in tone, and you miss like the goofy, wacky dinosaur pharaoh stuff of the old ones, you'll like this game because it has some ridiculous playable characters. It's way more arcadey. It's top-down, kind of 3/4 angle, sort of like
like
Mario
asymmetric.
RPG.
Yeah.
Solving puzzles. Yeah.
So okay, so we got that Lara Croft. That's a real good game there. Then we got Limbo.
It's also a real good game.
Yes, it is.
Which I've been given that for free. So am I crazy?
No, PlayStation's done it before.
Xbox has done it too,
does it all
right?
the time.
It's an awesome game if you've
I
never
left a
played it.
flip book of it on your desk once.
Yeah,
You
that
just
was
flip
weird.
and the little
That's
guy would walk
great.
around.
I spent a lot of time doing that flip book.
I did.
Probably
It took
should've
a
been
while.
working.
So spoilers, the spider in Limbo he's very early on, and,
Yep.
and you get a little bit of revenge on that man. whatever that thing is.
I got out of bed Saturday morning and walked into my living room, and overnight a spider had woven an 8-foot web in my living room, and I walked through it. Yes.
How does that happen?
I don't know. Yeah, well, it's ceiling to floor. That would be
just
8
like
feet.
one strain, or was
no,
it
it was a web. Like it was like an
That
orb
sounds like
spider
that
web.
scene in Gremlins
he was
2.
How
he
many
was like
nights
this
did you
big.
sleep?
No, I went to bed.
What year is it?
I went to bed at like 10. I woke up at 9. It was a Saturday, and I walked into my living room through that web. That was fun, and then the spider,
Dun,
like
dun, dun,
he was,
dun.
yeah, he was,
Dun, dun.
he was immense, and I swung my like Hello Kitty notebook at him, and I missed him, and he fell behind the couch, and then I pulled the couch out, and he was gone, and then I could just hear him behind me for the rest of
He
the day.
called all 90 of his friends. to
Yeah,
come
I
back.
was just like, oh, yeah, I had to leave finally.
What an idiot that spider is to build a house inside of a house.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That
he
people
was trying to
live
catch that. Maybe he was trying to catch me, but I don't know.
He should have been there for
Okay,
a lot longer.
so beyond
He
that
could have
Limbo,
used more stealth.
maybe he could have. Stealth Inc. 2.
yeah,
Stealth
featuring
Inc. 2.
a lot of their minion-esque
Yeah,
characters.
Those guys look
Yeah.
like minions.
They do kind of look like minions.
Kind
They're
of
great.
minion-esque.
So I
Minion-esque.
have not played Stealth Inc. 2.
Neither have I. It is a puzzle platformer
Yep.
that has stealth.
So Stealth Inc. 2, really good. Sound Shapes,
One of the best.
Yep.
It will absolutely be included in our essential 50
Yeah.
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
I'll probably do that one.
Yeah,
next week.
One of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
secret best level creator ever.
Yeah, an amazing, just
Oh,
like
man.
the most
Stealing a bet
amazing blending of phenomenal soundtrack with incredible platforming.
Yeah.
Yep.
So ingenious, such a great game.
And the
that's
ability-
available on everything.
And
PS4,
crazy-
3, and Vita.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Marty.
go ahead.
No. It's just that crazy ability to like write songs and build levels at the same time. That's just nuts.
Yeah.
Like you're making music by building the
You
level.
can jump around to a Beck song in that game.
You can? Can you jump around to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you doing some
Or you
hopping.
can sit perfectly still. I mean, however you want.
You probably gonna listen to the beginning of it because I think you got to go further in the level to hear
Yep.
more.
Yep.
Castle Storm Complete Edition. Castle Storm is really groovy. Have you guys played Castle Storm?
No,
Nope.
Play the Castle Storm. It's
No.
it's
Castle
it's totally
Storm's
worth
killed my
time.
parents, so I'm not allowed to play it.
Oh,
So we should be clear that not all of these will be PS4, PS3, and Vita.
right.
kind of
They're
bounced all over
scattered
the
about,
place.
but I didn't put what
I
they were
believe
on in
Limbo
little
is all of
parentheses.
them.
All
Sound
of them,
Shapes
yeah.
is all of them.
Yep.
And Lara Croft, I think, is just PS4, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Castle Storm's Vita, I believe, right?
Now the next one is specifically PS3.
PS3. Yep.
I think so.
Yep.
And that would be God of War Ascension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is at 7.8, which is very, very good, is the lowest ranked game on this list by IGN score. So they are all just good, very
Yeah.
good, all the way to amazing, according to our
Yeah.
scale.
Ascension's generally regarded as the worst of the God of War games, but that's sort of saying like Golden Abyss is the worst of the Uncharted games.
Yeah.
but
Right.
It's still pretty good.
And it's still pretty free.
It's still pretty free. Yeah, I don't know if this. I might be reading into it, but I don't know if this God of War thing is a sort of prelude to an upcoming announcement this year of finally details on the next God of War, which I feel like could happen at Paris Games Week or PSX maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's definitely not going to happen at. Well, we're pretty sure it's not going to happen at Gamescom because Sony is not squatting at the
Yeah,
corner.
unless they pull out a surprise out of nowhere, but I really doubt it. I think
Yeah.
they have enough planned for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just a really good lineup.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Like we totally take that for granted. How good of a deal that is.
Yeah.
I got it was either a tweet or an email, and someone was talking about how they feel slighted a little bit because they're like, well, I just bought Lara Croft and Sound Shapes like a month ago.
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't I be able to get something too? And I feel like I don't quite know how I feel about that. Like, I get that you're like, well, by being a hardcore fan and actually adopting these things early, I'm missing out on freebies. But at the same time, for me, it's exciting because these games you enjoy, sort of a conversation reignites about them. Like, I think people are going to be talking about Limbo and Sound Shapes this month, and that's awesome.
That's a great point,
Yeah.
Marty.
Yeah,
I really like
remember.
that.
I remember talking about that with Colin and Greg on an episode of Beyond last year, where people were sort of kind of predicting the games that would become PS Plus games based on kind of what they were. Like they said, look at Shovel Knight, like that screams PlayStation Plus,
Yeah.
and I was kind of like, why? And they're like, well, it's indie and pixely, and they're just going to give that one away for free. I am so happy I got to play Shovel Knight the day it came out. It obviously didn't come to PlayStation for a little while, but there's some things you just jump on and you play them, and you paid money to do that, and
It is good to
It's
pay
just
money
part of
for the
it.
game of the year.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
what Shovel Knight was.
exactly.
Yeah, if you want a Shovel Knight 2, you have to help the developer with
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, especially of like indie games like that. Like if a game is less than $20, I will gladly pay for it.
And there's going to be a couple games you buy that end up being free, but there's also going to be a couple games that you'll get for free that you never would have bought.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Lara Croft, I just skipped, and it just fell between the cracks, and I was like, well, I'll play Tomb Raider when it comes out this fall. But this is totally awesome. Like, I'm going to check this out and play straight through it. So
Yeah,
Absolutely. Let's do. We've tried to do that book club thing before, but let's do that with Sound Shapes because I just want to talk about Sound Shapes again.
Sound
Sure.
Shape's so great.
Download Sound Shapes, play it. We'll start a thread on.
it's cross-buy. I think it's cross-save, too.
Cross-buy, cross-save.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll start a thread on the Facebook group. Send your emails about it to
PlayStation Party.
PlayStation Party, PSP.
Yep.
Ooh, wait,
good.
that's already a thing. Damn it.
You are welcome.
It's good on everything, but I think if you have a Vita and have the choice, play it on Vita. I feel like
Yeah, I played
it's
on
even
Vita.
better there.
Real good stuff.
Marty, speaking of PlayStation Plus, what is this bonus gift? What are we talking about here?
Jared,
How do I get
what
it?
is this bonus gift?
I don't know because as of the beginning of the show, it still hasn't been announced.
Yeah.
So apparently people that were very early adopters of PS Plus 5 years ago are getting sent emails today, and there's some kind of special gift.
I didn't get
but,
an email yet.
as of the beginning of the show, those don't seem to have gone out yet, so we don't know what that gift is. That was based on a news story that was on IGN this morning. I was hoping by the time we came in here, we would know what that is, but we don't. So
Wait, I can go on
there's
PlayStation.
something special coming in theory.
If you've been subscribed since day one, which is 5 years ago, check your email. You're getting something cool.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Hopefully. We don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. This could range anywhere from here's a free game or here's choose one of these 4 games to here's 10, 15, 20
If you
bucks in credit.
Yeah,
This is one of the times where I want something physical.
Yeah.
You know, like
Oh, wow.
I want a
That'd be
cool
cool.
statue.
I will mail you a taco.
What kind of taco?
Maybe. How about Del Taco taco?
No, that's disgusting.
Well, I know.
Actually, if you
but
mailed it, it'd
I'm
probably
poor.
be fine because it's
Yeah, it'd
made
be
of-
the same. It'd be petrified. It'd be
Yeah.
like completely different.
Like,
Larry.
I'll take a Choco Taco.
You want me to mail? But we all mail to
You
you.
don't have to mail anything to me. We work 10 feet from each other.
Okay, I will give you a Choco Taco because they're
Put a
delicious.
postage
And
stamp.
I'll buy one for myself as well.
That sounds great. Why don't we
Okay.
just get Choco Tacos
That sounds
together?
good. You want one? You want a Choco
And
Taco?
we'll, okay, well, we don't have to deal with the post office at all.
I don't
Okay,
think,
that sounds good.
I've had a Choco Taco in 15 years.
So your
very good.
PlayStation Plus bonus gift is buy yourself a Choco Taco.
That is the gift right there.
Go out there. Now what they are is they are tacos made of chocos.
They are an ice creamy, delicious snack.
That's right.
Yep,
Main
delectable
ingredient, Choco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second ingredient, taco.
taco. You put those two together and you got it.
Yeah,
the
you'll
name
enjoy
says
it.
it all.
It contains no meat or vegetables.
Nope.
It's actually just types of dairy and some chocolate and the wafer, and it's
Delicious
it always
wafer.
just crumbles apart, but it's great.
A
It's
sugary
real
shell.
mess. That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And this has been Brian and Jared describe food.
It's actually
make
let's
it-
taco Choco Tacos.
Exactly.
Oh, Let's Choco Taco.
Yeah, let's
Oh,
Choco
wow.
Taco.
Yeah.
We could put meat on it, I suppose, or salsa, but that'd be weird.
You guys
No,
are
that would be disgusting.
That would not taste very good. Have you eaten that scorpion on your desk yet?
No, it's in a lollipop. I'm
I know.
saving it for a day where I'm sad enough to eat a scorpion lollipop.
I'm waiting.
Which luckily hasn't happened this
Well,
year.
you eat weird stuff on the site, so that's
When
something
I
to-
do it on camera, it's a different story.
Well, yeah, but I bought you that to eat on camera.
How am I supposed to eat a lollipop on camera? You know how disgusting that sounds?
Well, it's got a scorpion in the middle. You're worried about the
yeah, but I
lollipop
don't want,
part?
like, what
You want to
to
sit there and
close
constantly
up of
just slovenly, slowly lap wrap around the outer exterior of a lollipop to reveal a dead scorpion.
No, I want you to eat, reveal and then eat the scorpion.
That
That's
sounds
the whole
like a
idea.
Dark Souls sequel.
It does, actually. Dark Souls sequels look great.
All right, so we don't know what the surprise is, what this present is.
No.
We still have no idea. All right, well, let us know if you got one. If you don't want it, send it to us.
Yep.
If it's Choco Taco, do not mail it.
Do
because
not
it
mail
will
it.
be a weird pile of milk by the time we get it.
We do not want that. Maybe it'll become butter by the end. It'll be churned up in the mail, and the milk will turn into butter.
Speaking of churned up in the mail, I churned up a few questions by going in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group, where you can go and join a ever-growing group of amazing, wonderful, like-minded individuals. We do a quick section there called Rapid Fire. I will pop in, ask questions, and pick 5 to 7 of them completely arbitrarily. Actually, I usually try to pick the best ones.
Yeah, you absolutely do that.
And I asked them to the show as fast as possible. So this is Rapid Fire number 1. Sebastian Thrower asks, what are the best video game romances?
I bring it up literally every week. Vincent and Catherine and other Catherine.
Megan gave me a face like, those don't exist.
Megan? What video game romances? What's been done well?
Pass.
Wow, yeah.
Pass.
It's really hard.
There's a lot that I really like, and so I can't just pick one. So
Can I pretend Wally's a video game so I can say Wally and Eva?
No, Jesus Christ, it's a movie.
I know, but I know, but it's
My favorite
I got
video
real
game of
sad
all
at the
time
end of
is
that film.
Casablanca.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I think Catherine works well. I think just
Catherine's
going on the Atlas train, I think stuff from Persona 4 works really well.
I actually like the stuff that happens in the Uncharted games.
Yeah.
Because it's actually a more realistic romance where the woman's angry because the guy's being a total idiot.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, and being a complete selfish
Yeah.
asshole. And I think that's kind of a little better than just sort of like the old princess trope of being like, save this girl, she needs
Yeah.
help. It's like, it's one character that's like, why are you doing this to the other character? The other one being like, because I have to, I'm a dude.
Yeah.
I think it's very smart. It's very well handled.
Yeah.
I've done the thing before where I've created myself and like my spouse in The Sims and tried to live
how
out
did
our
that
lives.
romance work out?
It ended terribly. I think I dyed my own urine in a swimming pool or something. But
Boy, you can't die if you pee in a swimming pool, can you?
well, you can if somebody takes the ladder out and you run out of strength and drown, which I think is what happened.
Brian just looks mortified.
You know,
That was not a good romance.
no, it's fine. Number 2, Walter Wayne, not Pierre III, which sounds like the name of a dude that would give you a haunted house. Asked, why did you guys decide on game journalism over another career within the industry? I don't know. I never really wanted to. I guess because reading the Konami story, stuff like that. No, stuff like that is why it's very tough to sort of be like, I want to go head down on one thing for a long time. I think I can answer for a bunch of people in the building, and you guys can answer for yourselves. Is that we're very scatterbrained here at IGN. We like to work on a lot of different things. Like, I like to be able to one day I'm doing a video with Sergeant Slaughter, and the next day I'm in here talking about Konami and turds in the pool.
And Choco Tacos.
And Choco Tacos. And the day after I'm on a Mario Maker live stream. When you work on a game or you do PR for a game, you're kind of head down on one specific thing for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that's why it takes a certain type of individual to really have that kind of focus. And I completely lack that. So that's my answer.
Yeah. No, for me, writing is just one of the 3 things in life I'm good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the other 2?
Drinking and knowing which way the ocean is.
Wow.
Yeah.
You'd have been great on Lewis and Clark's expedition.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your 2-year gap? We don't have to.
We'll talk about it next week.
Okay, we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
We have
You waiting for Goldfarb on that one?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have a PlayStation Plus
oh.
bonus surprise from Marty Sleva next week on Podcast Beyond.
Yeah.
We're gonna learn about a little bit of a surprise.
It's pretty amazing.
The other day.
It's the best thing that ever happened.
Number 3.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
answer.
I
Go for
didn't.
it.
Sorry. Panic.
Did you just get possessed?
Don't pee the pool again.
Exactly. I never intended to do this. This was a complete accident. I started writing about video games in my, I guess early 30s, out of joy and because I liked writing. And I was working in completely different careers than what I'm doing now, and it all kind of fell together. So I ended up in journalism because I found a nexus where 2 of the things in life that are somehow like 2 of the rarest jobs in the world are working in video games and writing, and somehow I found a place where I could do both those things at the same time. Like that's like the best thing ever.
Being a king is pretty rare.
Yeah, but yeah, it is pretty rare. It's rarer, but it's hard to get paid to write full time about anything.
Right.
And it's hard to get a job in video games, and to have both of those at one convergence, that's just the best.
It's a good place to be.
Absolute accident that I ended
Megan?
up here.
I love writing. I love video games. Voila.
There we go.
Boom.
Perfect.
Crushed it.
Number 3, Josiah Byler. I think that's how you name it. Hosea?
Hosea.
Is it J and H?
Well, it's probably Josiah. Occasionally it's
Josiah?
Hosea, but it's, we're going to say Josiah.
Josiah Byler asks, if you had to go back in time and explain what a video game was, what one game would you take with you and why?
I'm assuming he means before video games existed.
Yeah, so you go back in time and you hope people don't throw rocks at you.
Yeah, flip the
kill
F out.
you.
Burn you for being a witch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Probably Pac-Man, because it's instantly comprehensible, but gets the idea across of what's, it's abstract. It's not based on any real world thing. So they get the idea, oh, look, it's a fantasy. But you can figure out what you're supposed to do in Pac-Man in like a minute. And there's very simple control interface, 4-directional movement. People would get it, and it would get and then they'd be like, oh, what else could I do?
See, my fear is that no matter what you showed them, they would think it was a video of the future. Like you were trying to show them something that was going to happen.
That's interesting.
It'd be like,
who is this yellow man, and why is he trying to eat all my ghosts?
At one point, did these ghosts show up? And also, what's a pretzel?
Well, pretzels have been around a long time.
Pretzels?
15,
Yeah, pretzels have been a really long time,
Really?
actually. Yeah, pretzels have been around for ages.
Pretzels have been around longer than apples.
So, no, that is untrue. They make a lot of pretzels in Pennsylvania. They're good too. But
Pennsylvania?
I think it's Pennsylvania.
Get us out of here.
Oh, Pennsylvania 2, Simon's Quest. No, this, but it's kind of like the thing about how do you explain what an explosion sounds like to somebody who's never heard one?
You just go.
Yeah. There's inherent problems with this. Yeah.
God, you're an idiot.
I would say, wait,
none of us even answered the
Yeah, no
question.
kidding.
I thought he was gonna get it. We were gonna end up in a history lesson about bathtubs if we had stayed on this. Keep going. Keep going.
Why do you let me on this show?
I don't know.
I'm
Marty, what
so
would you say?
sorry.
I don't always want to be the guys like, I want to show everyone Journey. But I want to show everyone Journey.
That's all right. It's
Yeah,
great.
nobody back then knew about what it was like to walk across an empty desert or slowly trudge up a mountain. Well, animal noises playing in the background. Megan, save us.
I was just gonna say Pong because that
Yeah.
is super simple. Like
Yeah.
they did have a ancient form of tennis, so there
Yeah,
you go.
they just played it with human heads.
Yeah, pretty
But
much.
yeah,
it's
that
like,
is-
Here's a happy alternative. Instead of using human heads, you can get this ball.
That is a game where that's like the epitome of, okay, don't freak out. This is going to be really weird, but it's not too crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see Pong, and it's like, that's insane, but I can handle it.
Yeah,
Whereas
you
you're
can
like,
handle it.
watch this. It's Call of Duty.
Yeah,
Just don't freak out.
yeah. Here's
But there's
the
a
future
world
of
inside
murder.
of this thing. Yeah.
Pong's a great choice.
I think my
It really
issue
is.
with Pong would be a lot of people would be gathered around the hypothetical self-running television that you brought back in time through your time machine that they would not too busy throwing rocks at out of fear. And they would wonder where the ball went when it went past the paddle.
Oh, I used to have
Is
this.
it in the world now?
No, I used to have this cat, and when I would watch racing, like NASCAR on TV, and the cars went off screen, she would
Yeah.
run around the side trying to find them. Yeah, that
'Cause
could,
she's a stupid animal.
yeah, that would happen.
I feel like if I showed someone Rez, I could just become their god. Like they would defy all religions of the time.
That's
you
actually
know?
really smart. We didn't really think about that. You could show people certain games, and you would just look like you were a deity from space.
Yeah.
You probably would. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they might try to sacrifice you like the Ewoks did.
All right, and number 5 is the last one we're answering. Andrew McCune asks, Hamburger Helper. It was supposed to say Hamburger Helper. I just put in Hamburger
Hamburger
here.
Help.
It's Hamburger Helper, yay or nay?
Nay.
I'm going with nay.
That's a hard nay. It's,
Yeah.
And it's also, nay works because Hamburger Helper is also made of horse.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say what I usually say about, how do you feel about Hamburger Helper, Megan?
Have you ever had it?
Wrong.
It's
It's
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Is it that
Very
It's
wrong.
really just a spice pack. I mean,
Yeah.
right? It's just like ground up meat, and then you throw a spice pack
So
in
here's
it.
the
That's
thing.
hamburger
I
helper and
think
some noodles.
both of those words independently are very important.
Love
things to
hamburgers,
have.
love helping.
Helping is important.
Yeah, it is.
I think the second you have a disembodied hand that talks with a mouth on his palm that screams about making dinner for your
But they're very honest about what it's made of.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
It's hamburger.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not
Very
horse.
honest
Really, it couldn't be horse because you'd have to use horse meat because
You don't know.
hamburger helper
the
contains
spices
so.
might be horse.
You have to
could be.
supply your own ham. A lot of people make that's a very rookie move for hamburger helpers. You go to the store and you think it's a self-contained meal.
Yeah.
It is if it's the apocalypse. If you're eating hamburger helper without hamburgers, then you're probably in a bunker somewhere.
Do you remember the hamburger helper jingle about mom?
If mom is divorced and dad's not coming home, it's hamburger helper and you're all alone. I think that was it, right?
And
All right. Thank you for listening to Podcast Beyond. That was a ride.
That was
Man,
Jesus Christ.
all over the place.
Oh,
This is a good one.
That's beautiful.
Jared, you want to close us off with the Essential 50?
Absolutely. Since I will
Christ.
never be back on the show again, I'm going to.
I might be the one that's never allowed back.
No, this week, let's do Klonoa, Door to Phantomil for ye old PlayStation.
Yep.
Going back in the time. So, Klonoa was one of the earlier versions or earlier renditions of a 2.5D platformer.
Yeah.
It was a period of time where 2D was out and 3D was in, and nobody cared about 2D platforming for a while because, we had this kind of cool technological revolution going on, and we had just had 10 solid years of 2D platformers, and people kind of forgot that you could make good ones still that did original things. And for a while, they were considered completely dead. So Klonoa comes out in the middle of all this and is soundly ignored by everybody for several reasons. One, because it sounds like an STD.
That's not incorrect.
Two, because it starred a mascot character that looked kind of like Yakko Warner. With Pac-Man on his hat.
Yeah, I think, what kind of animal was that?
I don't know what Klonoa is.
Is Klonoa a cat?
I don't know.
Like a cool cat with
I don't know.
backwards hat?
He's like a
I thought he was
long-eared
like a skunk.
thing. Well, I'm not even
So
sure
nobody
Klonoa's an
knows.
animal. No, well, let's explain.
Totally.
I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but Klonoa's origin is part of how the whole thing wraps up. Have you guys played Klonoa?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you
played
get
a bunch of the
Did you
Klonoa
get to
games.
the end?
Got a real sad ending.
Yeah. That's the. So this game. Wrong place, wrong time. Nobody cared. Nobody bought it. It was reissued for the Wii a few years ago in a great version that was soundly ignored. But go out and find this thing. You're gonna have a hard time finding it on PlayStation. Go find the Wii version if you can't. It is a superb 2D platformer.
It's
Just
really great.
wonderful. It feels almost like it has a kind of a jumping on top of things and grabbing and midair mechanic that sort of feels like if Super Mario 2 had ever had a sequel.
Yeah.
I think it would have felt something like Klonoa.
Sure.
And it explored a lot of things that you don't really see done since. It had a Rayman-ish kind of floatiness to it, but you grab the stuff in midair and use that to vault yourself higher. And the puzzle levels got harder and harder as you went on. But it was never like annoying puzzle platforming where you couldn't figure out what to do. It was just like, I've got to go here and then here and then here and then here. And you had that sense of precision like you get in a really good Mario game where you're just like on fire and you feel like you can't do anything wrong. And it's so good. And the melancholy turn it takes.
Gets real sad.
And that ending.
For GameStar,
We're gonna have to talk about that after the show.
For
'cause I wanna
GameStar
hear
and
about
Cat
that.
Skunk.
Oh man, let's not spoil it for people. Yeah, but it is positively, it's like A.A. Milne Winnie the Pooh ending, like awful. It's just tears your heart out.
Winnie the Pooh die at the end of Winnie the
No,
Pooh?
Yeah,
the one
oh.
of Winnie the Pooh, the kid's like, I have to stop imagining you're alive now.
Yeah, the kid's like, I have to grow up and I'm not ever allowed to come back to the 100-acre wood again.
And then all the animals eat each other.
But Pooh, like, he's a very, very little brain, so like Christopher Robin takes him off to tell him this, and Pooh can't understand. And Christopher Robin's like trying to tell him, and Pooh's just like, I don't get it. And he has to leave Pooh alone, confused, and friendless forever.
So does Winnie the Pooh go crazy and eat all the other animals?
We never see that part. That's the Brian Altano
he keeps
fanfic.
screaming honey and he just tears them all apart.
Yeah.
He's just fat it with the
Oh,
ear.
Bob.
And ER's like, I knew the whole time.
But yeah, it's so Klonoa could have been. I mean, it almost could have been an NES game. 2-button, cross pad and 2-button controls. Very, very, very traditional. But the level designs and the character control are
Great
superb.
soundtrack.
Great
that
soundtrack.
I think that and the Tomba games are the best 2D platformers on.
Oh,
PS1.
Tomba, interesting.
I like it a lot.
I'll talk about that sometime.
Yeah. Stars a naked boy. Well, he's
Yeah.
got some form of pants, but he's mostly naked.
I thought
Yeah.
it was a skunk.
A real
Symphony
naked skunk man.
Symphony of the Night is the best game on the original PlayStation. It's certainly the best 2D game. But Klonoa is hands down the best precision platformer on the system.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Accepted.
Accepted. That was good, Jared.
Thanks.
Let's talk about the sad ending someday. thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll go around the table quick with Twitter plugs and something that you want people to see or watch, or something that you worked on. Jared, we'll start with you.
Okay, so my Twitter handle is PettyCommaJared, PettyCommaJared. Something to check out. We did a 7 video game movies worth watching last week. I think that's still
awesome.
floating around. Check that out because those are pretty good movies. And there's a lot of crappy video game movies, but a few good ones. Go out and watch a couple of those if you don't mind.
Brian?
My Twitter handle is Agent Bizzle, and the thing that I'm really, really excited to tell you guys about is that on August 14th, that's Friday.
Is this actually happening?
August 14th at noon, Max Scoville and I are bringing back Up at Noon.
Yay!
Yeah! And it's live, so you can interact with us on the fly. You can catch us off guard, and we're going to handle that.
We have Ryan Reynolds video bomb you again?
Ryan Reynolds will video bomb us every episode. He's legally obliged to do that. And we're really excited about this. If you like all the kind of dumb off-topic stuff that we do on this show sometimes that I know a lot of you get mad about because we do too much of it here, we'll try to do more of it there so there's less of it here, and we can get back to talking about Winnie the Pooh eating his friends and the history of pretzels. So that's Up at Noon, live, August 14th. Max Scoville and I will be both guest hosting at the same time. So that's it. Come join us. We're going to have fun.
That's awesome.
You were complicit in all of that, Choco Taco Boy.
Oh, yeah.
That's awful.
Big time.
Megan?
If you love JRPGs, wrestling, or anime, hit me up on Twitter at Megan, MEGHAN_IGN, and I will be happy to talk to you about those things.
And you're also on another IGN podcast.
I am.
What's the name of that podcast?
IGN Anime Club.
Woo!
Which goes
Which
up.
is blowing up.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's getting big.
It's very exciting. Yes, I had people recognize me at Anime Expo, and that was
Really?
pretty,
That's awesome.
That's
that
awesome.
tripped me out because it was thousands of people, and we had just started, and I was like, no one's gonna recognize me.
Somebody messaged me the other day, and they watched the podcast Beyond Video for the first time, and they're like, "Oh man, I didn't know you guys record in the Anime Club studio."
I saw that.
That's awesome!
I was like, we've been with this show for going on for like 10 years. Yeah, nice work.
That's great.
That is
Yes.
awesome.
Nice work.
What about you,
But yes,
Marty?
I love that. Yeah, check out Anime Club. You guys do that every week. I am on Twitter at McBiggity. My review for Rare Replay will be up by now. That is the opposite of a
what'd you give it?
PlayStation game. A 9.
All right.
9.0.
Wow.
It is anyone who is interested in video game history should check it out. It's sort of a new benchmark for how compilations and sort of historical relics should be treated in video games. And then the next review I'm on, which is more applicable to this audience, is Everybody's Going to the Rapture.
Oh, nice.
That probably won't be up till maybe before next episode, but we'll see when the embargo is.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you guys so much for joining us. That was Podcast Beyond, episode 405. Subscribe on iTunes, check it out on YouTube, watch it on IGN. However you consume it, we are always grateful. Shoot us an email at beyond@ign.com. If you have a question, comment, or concern, join the Facebook group, Podcast Unlocked. Podcast Beyond. I deliver this message twice a week.
You get the hell out of here, you traitor.
Twice a week.
Oh my God, he fell apart right there at the end.
Oh, you tripped at the finish line.
Unbelievable. That is unacceptable. Beyond, you piece of trash.
Beyond.
Beyond.
And I guess Podcast Unlocked too.